Raven, the Big Fat Witch. How are you? You guys, I'm bringing something special to you. So you will see that this video today is entitled Part 2. This is a fantastic interview and chit chat session that I had with the wonderful and astounding Joey Morris. You guys know that we're both daughters of the Morrigan. We both have lots of experience working with her in different ways. We both kind of approach her on our own level. So I want you guys to go check out the link down below, which is the first half of the video. It's over on Joey's channel, so you'll get to watch a good meaty portion of it there, and then come over here and check out this half, which is the second half, and you'll get to hear all about lessons from Mama Morrigan and just how we're both kind of thriving and surviving during these times. I think you will find it incredibly interesting and fun. You guys know I love Joey to pieces. She's got an incredible channel, long history here on YouTube, and she's just one of my favorite people here. So I hope you enjoy this video, and yeah, stay tuned till the end. Watch it all the way through, you guys. There's some good stuff here. Anyway, I hope you enjoy, and until next time, huge blessings. Bye-bye.
You know, I think I think you and I have a lot of parallels when it comes to some of the things in our upbringing, as far as what we were told our value was, and what the world expected of us. And I think women in general, we all kind of know that story. With here is your behavior that is prescribed by family, society, whatever. And you know, I did grow up in a family where my dad was very much, you know, women's voices don't mean anything. So my filter is a lot, you know, growing up, it was really like, oh, my voice doesn't matter, because that's how that translated to me. Oh, my voice isn't as important, or it doesn't matter, because that's kind of what I grew up. But I figured out along the way that no, it's not that my voice isn't important or doesn't matter. It is that there are other people who think that my voice isn't important or doesn't matter, and what they think, actually, I'm not concerned with that, because, you know, I have the right and ability to speak up for what I believe in and, you know, stand my ground. And now my filter for those things is a lot different, and that's why the change on the way I take comments on YouTube. I used to filter that with, well, everybody deserves a voice, because it kind of went back to that whole all voices are equal. And you know, Joey, I don't believe that anymore. I think that respectful voices are valid. I think that people who are genuinely trying to have a conversation are valid, or genuinely trying to understand something. But, you know, we all know that the internet is full of trolls, and there are people out there that they really are just looking to stir up, you know, ugly feelings in other people, or make people feel bad about themselves. And I'm just like, no, yeah, you, sir, can go away.
Yeah, I've started being very, very snap back as well. So for a very long time, I would just ignore a lot of it. And I still do. I still don't always lose my temper or anything like that, because I don't agree with giving people the power of my responses most of the time. But there is one individual who came from across the ways, and he doesn't like women, shall we say. And doesn't feel that women's voices are important. So there's that parallel. And he's just vile. All the time. All the time. And I had commented on a friend's picture, and we're joking around, and for some reason he was on this person's extended Facebook, as in this person had like a public page, and he'd posted this picture, and we were giggling on that. And this guy just came for me. For no reason, for having a giggle with a different person. And he was telling me how I was shallow and only concerned about my looks and had no intelligence and nothing to back it up. And in the end, I just turned around and I just went for him. And it's not something that I would have thought about doing recently, but I was like, how many times does somebody have to bait you and bait you and bait you until you just teeth and then be done with it?
Yeah.
So there is this interesting energy right now of what merits your reaction, when merits your reaction, versus what is truly not worth your reaction, but also kind of like the long term consequences of it too. So there's sort of like, do you want to be in this toxic situation whereby you feel drained all the time? No, let's get rid of it then. And there's been a lot of that recently under the Morrigan. There's like, I think it's probably because we're so aware of death and energies right now, like those life death balance energies in the pandemic and in general. And it's like, is this what you want to waste your time here on this earth doing? Fighting with these people, caring what these people think? Is that what you want to waste your time with? No.
So much. I think that, you know, I don't know, I was thinking about this the other day, and you know, I was telling my wife, like, we were talking about, you know, work and things like that, and I was kind of having one of those days where I was complaining, and I was like, you know, I love my job, but I hate this particular thing, and you know, I just don't want to waste, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to have this bad feeling every time I'm around X, Y, or Z. And it kind of led to a deeper discussion around the fact that, you know, I can really tell that as I have aged, as I have received more and more lessons from the Morrigan as far as my own like personal boundaries and self-worth, I have really made a lot of changes to relationships around me, to the way that I ingest other people's energy, to the way that I allow my own energy to either fall off a cliff. And I love Arwen's word, awfulize, you know, because sometimes we like to go in a rabbit hole and go, oh God, everything's terrible, you know. But I've had a lot of shift around that, because the lessons kind of are, I don't want to say piling up on each other, but they're creating more filters. And so I was kind of having this day where I was like, wow, maybe I'm making my world smaller, because I'm not, you know, I'm kind of just dismissing people and experiences if they don't make me happy. And I had to catch myself. I was like, hold up, girl. I was going down that path of more people and more experiences equal more value. And I had to stop myself, because I was like, no, the lessons that I have learned over and over again for the last probably 10 years, Mama has said, look, you can eat a ribeye steak, you know, 3 nights a week, or you can have some 99-cent chicken nuggets 29 times a day. You may be able to have more of the really greasy, good, cheap, junky one, but in the long run, what is it doing for your health, and what is it doing for your mental space and your spirituality? You know, it all boils down to food with me, Joey. But no, I was just thinking about value, and just thinking about, you know, the ways that we kind of make choices to filter energy that comes toward us. And gosh, even getting to the space where we know that we're allowed to do that is big sometimes.
Oh yeah, I had found myself in this really interesting place now, that for a very long time I cared so much about what everybody thought all the time, and that's growing up in an environment where you're afraid that if the bad opinion comes on you, then worse is going to follow. So you're trying to avoid the bad value judgment or the bad opinion of you at all costs, and that kind of spread out into like people pleasing. And you know, as a spiritual person, you want to be of service, you want to be of value, you want to make a difference, and these all come from a great place internally. But then the people pleasing aspect just sneaks in with all of that, and it gets to the point where you're like trying to please people, and then you find yourself not doing things because it's going to upset this person, and your whole life is then a mess because you're not doing what it is that you feel called to do, that you're passionate about doing, and that you're suddenly second guessing yourself all the time. And I realized, and this was about, I've had that's one of those reoccurring Morrigan lessons that we're going to dig a little deeper each time that we come back around. But this time I realized that I was like, I can't. And it doesn't matter how much you love a person or you care about a person, you can't keep giving away pieces of yourself as platitudes to other people's stuff, because you are filtering yourself down to a nothingness, and you're not standing up, you're not speaking, you're not getting passionate the way that you need to. Because I nearly didn't make a video recently because of that thought process, which was the one about false positivity as a response to what's happening in the world right now. And so many people resonated with that video. So many people reached out and were like, thank you for saying this. And I nearly didn't make that video because I was like, people are going to think I'm awful for like saying that this is a false positivity, and it's not the way that I feel that we should all deal with this situation. Daisy is now scratching the floor. Sorry, guys.
Oh, Daisy. You know, it's amazing because I resonate with that really, really hard. I feel that in my marrow. You know, I was friends with a woman years and years and years ago, and she was a very empowered, powerful woman. I loved her deeply. We're no longer friends. Our friendship just could not survive. And that's been, 10, 15 years ago. But she was one of the most self-empowered women I'd ever met in my life. And she was that woman that as long as she had a phone with some internet, she could make anything happen, like anything. She once told me, like, she grew up believing, she came from Mexican heritage. Her whole family was from La Ciudad, Mexico. And she grew up in a very tight-knit family where her grandmother kind of ran things. And her grandmother would always tell her, Mija, you only have a set amount of light to give people. Your light, your inner light, your creativity, your spirit, you have light. And if you give all that away to other people, you'll have nothing left for yourself. And we were friends, and I was young. I was in my early 20s, and she saw me just spinning my wheels in these ridiculous dating relationships where I was dating people that just absolutely were not contributing anything to my life. And I was just wearing myself out to love them. You know how we do.
Mm-hmm.
And she took me off to the side, and she was a little older than I was. And she was kind of a mentor. And she said, look, you have got to stop giving your light away to people that have none of their own. You don't understand that you're a lamppost, and people that don't have any light in their life, they just are vacuums for that, and they will come and they will suck all that away from you. And that really resonated with me. Now, I will tell you, I'm older now, and I'm wiser about what my light means. And I actually disagree now that I'm older and I know more about myself. My light is actually endless because I know how to regenerate it. And you do too, Joey. You know exactly what I'm talking about. We can get depleted just like anybody else in this world. We can get depleted. Our tanks know how to run on empty. We're great at that. But I really believe in divinity of the spirit. I really believe that through the Morrigan, I know how to regenerate myself when it comes to healing and creativity and just kind of paving over the spots, the divots that the world leaves in us. And so now I think about when I have light, and I do agree that there are people in this world who don't have any light of their own. They don't know how to generate for themselves. And I do believe there are people who are kind of emotional vacuums. They will vacuum other people's creativity. Mm-hmm. We've seen that here in the witchy community. Mm-hmm. They will vacuum love from people because they don't know how to create it for themselves. They will vacuum time from other people because that's what feeds their dark spirit. They will just suck up all the energy around them. And it's not that I won't give those people light because, I don't have enough for myself. It's just that I realize that giving people light takes energy. And I now, instead of thinking, I can't give any light because I won't have enough for me, I now ask myself, do I have the energy to give that? Because I know there may not be anything in return. Mm. And that lesson, and that's been one of those kind of extrapolated lessons from the Morrigan, where it's been a growth process, where I realized I've actually got a choice around my energy and power. And that's been one of the best things I've ever realized. I have a choice. That's very empowering.
Mm-hmm. And you have the right to make the choice as well, because I think we may be aware that we can choose to do this in a way, but we're not really aware that we can. It's like somewhere along the lines we've been waiting for permission all these years, and the Morrigan is sat there like
girl.
What are we doing right now? Why are we waiting? What are we waiting for? Like,
right? Whose permission are you waiting on?
Over you? And that has
I
been a
always hear
really
her
interesting
too.
lesson, like the ways in which we give power to people over ourselves, and what that
Yeah, and do you
actually
hear her say some? Do you hear her say to you sometimes too, like, because I'm a people pleaser too. I go way back, and that's still a behavior that I have to kind of really do work around. It's a lot of shadow work,
Mm.
but sometimes I'll have these conversations in my head, and I'm like, oh, I can't do so and so because it might make somebody feel bad, or I can't do this because it might upset somebody. And I always hear her say, "Who told you that you couldn't do that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who told you that? Who told you that?" And it's not that we don't have a responsibility to say things respectfully, or to, you know, to be in the world respectfully and with kindness. It's just that we take on a lot of responsibility as women, as witches, as daughters of the Morrigan. We take on a lot of the responsibility when it comes to how other people ingest us.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we just need to say to ourselves, we have permission to just exist exactly as we are.
Yeah. Flawed,
You know?
and incomplete as it might
Yes.
feel sometimes, we absolutely do. It's funny because the last time I was having that argument in my head, a crow came to the damn window and went, "Rah!" And it made me leap
Right?
out of my skin. No, because that doesn't normally happen. And she was clearly like telling me off. And so she had been telling me off in my own head, and then I wasn't paying attention enough. And then a great big crow comes outside the window and made me jump out of my skin. So I was like, okay, we're not doing this anymore. Like, no, that's quite a literal warning.
Right? I love that squawking. It's like, okay, yeah, just stop where you're at, you know?
No, stop now. But yeah, and so there really has been that. It's self-empowerment in a way, in so many different ways under the Morrigan. And this latest lesson has been, you can love people without giving them every inch of you. You can love people without wringing yourself out to dry, trying to help them. And some of these things aren't even your business, so just leave it alone. Because I swear, that's like a photo, you're like, I can see all the patterns. I know how to help. I know what we can do. I know that this will be of benefit to you, and I love you, and I want to give you this. And you just wear yourself out.
You do.
And it gets to the point where at that point it's like, this has to give. If you're not being nourished at the same time, if you're not nourishing yourself and you're not receiving nourishment in return for the things that you're doing, then it's not sustainable. And that's a big lesson of the pandemic really too, like what is not sustainable. That's what's going on in the world right now.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at earlier. Like, it almost feels like the earth is like, okay, yeah, all this BS that y'all all been doing, we ain't doing that no more. Like, we are going to stop all these processes that are, you know, the earth is suffering because humans are so greedy and wasteful. You know, we've got all these political systems that are just creating chaos. And it's almost like this pandemic. I don't want to say that I'm grateful for it because that's way too far. But it does give us a moment to pause. It does give us a moment to pause and take note of, okay, we've all been kind of at a pause for the last several weeks. And look, we're now seeing the earth, the ozone layer is the smallest it's been in 30, 40 years. And I look at people who are finding joy in baking bread, and people who are, you know, able to go outside and take a walk with distancing, but they're now saying how much they've enjoyed just going outside and walking. And you know, we are kind of seeing a people get back to themselves in a way, or at least get back to spirit in a way. So that part is positive.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been a lot of difference with the air quality in a lot of places as well, hasn't there? Like, Daisy, please stop.
Yeah.
Please stop. I will put you on camera.
She's like, hello?
Mummy's recording. It's just time for me to sing the song of my people and claw everything I can. Yeah.
I swear they've got a homing beacon.
Oh, absolutely. She's a Scorpio, so you know she does.
Oh my gosh. Well, Bella is a Virgo, We were actually have the same birthday. And normally if I'm recording a video in this room, she will come in here and decide that that's the time to scratch so that the collar will jingle and there's lots of thumping. And it's just like, oh, good grief.
Yeah, that's exactly what she's doing right now. I'm like trying to get into the deep conversations about things. Scratch, 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 scratch. I will.
She's like, I'm providing a soundtrack.
Yeah,
it's a soundtrack. It's a soundtrack to your life.
I'm giving you punctuation and gravitas with my claws. Yeah.
So, do you have anything big on the horizon? Anything you're working on?
I have a couple of things that I'm planning to do. I want to release Songs of Shades Volume 4 sooner than I had originally planned it, because having released the others as downloads, which I wasn't going to do originally, brought a lot of people a lot of joy. And I got a lot of feedback from the Songs of Shades as downloads, as well as, you know, from people who were in Australia and they couldn't afford the shipping, things like that. And so I was like, given how much I'm downloading, how much I'm channeling, how much is being spoken into being right now, it's very natural to just complete that Songs of Shades Volume 4.
Nice.
So I want to do that. I'm working on a book privately and secretly in my own secret time.
Nice.
Which has maybe has a shape-shifting through line. We're not saying anything else for now.
I love that.
And
I saw that Kellyanne's putting out a book in I want to say maybe September or October. I don't know exactly when, but it's later this fall.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I love Kellyanne.
It's going to be amazing. I'm excited about that.
So what about you? Have you got big things on the horizon?
Man, I'll tell you something. I need like 10 more hours in the day and like 3 more days in the week I have so many ideas. I need to turn into an octopus to make them all come to fruition. You know, I'm a big idea person. It's just the follow through kind of sucks. So yes, the answer is yes, I have things. It's just which thing do I bubble up to the surface first? You know, I have a book that is finished that I need to figure out what I'm going to do with it. And I have another one that is close to being finished that I know what I'm going to do with it. It's just, I need to figure out when I'm personally ready to let that one go out into the world. And then I've got a couple of projects, like I'm actually trying to figure out, it won't happen this year and maybe not even next. I'm trying to figure out when to make the Witchy Festival happen. Like, you know, I had talked with Arwen a few years ago about making like a witchy festival here in America, called Wild Witch in the Woods. I still own the domain name. But I'd like to do like a little, not necessarily like a mini Ren Fest, but I'd like to find a space where people can have tents or cabins or hotels where there's lots of different levels of accessibility, and have maybe a 4-day weekend where people can come together for in-person classes and drumming and food and circle and, you know, different things. And I can't stop thinking about that. I think it would be amazing. And I'd want it to be, you know, financially accessible, obviously. And I'd want it to be where we could have a craft market so people could sell their wares and, you know, readings and maybe a talent night or something. So I've been kind of actually putting a lot of research into how to make that happen. And I've got some good, you know, some good lines on it, but I have put on big events like that before, and they are a lot of work. So I just have to figure out if I want to commit to that.
Is this one of these Virgo moments, like, I want to do this thing? Oh, look at all this work. Yes, but we could do all that work. It would be worth it. Well, that's a lot, though. I want to. I know that feeling.
Yes. And you're like, oh, my God, if I made it happen, it would be amazing. And then, you know, you can make it happen, but you're going to be bald-headed and scarred up by the time it gets there. You know?
Yeah.
Like I've done those things, and it's like, yeah. And by the time you make it happen, you're like, wow, I'm done for the rest of the year. I've got nothing left in me. But I'm focusing on things. I think at the core of me is that I want to put things into the world that will help people. I help myself by helping other people. Like spiritually, I get a lot out of knowing that something I have done or said has made somebody feel better about themselves or about the world. That's what fills up my tanks. So that's where I'm really focusing, while also working a full-time job that sucks my soul. So,
the real.
I love my job. It's just, I work in a corporate environment. I work for a really large company, corporate environment, and I love it. I mean, I'm in a high rise. I love it, but it's a different world.
Yeah, I completely relate to how you said about really wanting it to make a difference to people. I think that's probably one of the most important things to me too. And the stories that really stay with me are when things really made a difference, especially if it's magically really made a difference. So the woman who got pregnant after I did a fertility spell for her, after she'd been having trouble getting pregnant, that one stayed with me. And the woman who had one of my protection charms in her car, and she had a car crash, and she said there was no way for this charm to have gotten off from the back where it was tied up, but it did, and it came flying forward, and she said it felt like an energy barrier went poof in front of her as she went into the car, went into the side of her, and she came out without a scratch. And she was convinced to the point where it had been that she believed before, but that had left her with this like unshakable, like whoa feeling that she'd seen magic in action in that moment. And like stories like that stay with me, because you're like, oh, it really truly touched and helped somebody's life.
I love that. I've been doing a lot of like work for people that are going through grief times. I think the last probably 4 or 5 times I've engaged with someone has been, the last one, she came to me and she had lost a pet, and, this pet was very important to her, and she's single, like this pet was her world. And she was like, can you help me with a grief spell to help me kind of work through this? And we did, we did some candle magic and, came up with some spell work, chanting and things like that. And I told her, I said, I want you to do this every night for a week, 7 days, every night. And, we'll talk again next week. And she came back the week later and she was like, you know what? I thought that this was crazy, because she's not a witchy person. She just comes to me because she's like, hey, I know you're kind of into that stuff. That's what they say. Mm-hmm. And she's like, can you help me? And she came back a week later and she was like, wow, okay, I thought this was bull. I thought this was a bunch of hula doola, but she said, I actually do feel better. And I said, look, in doing the work, you've also given yourself time. You've got 7 days of space where you have created a routine around honoring this pet that has passed. And people don't realize, spell work is that simple sometimes. Sometimes it is that simple. And it's been things like that have been really, like, I like what you said about, when someone realizes, oh, this is real. Yeah, it's real. You just have to do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that.
So we're honing in around the hour mark. So I was just going to ask you if there's anything you would like to let people know right now, or really advice you've had or think is really pertinent to people in the world right now.
So here's the thing I would say. I have heard it both publicly and privately from a lot of people who are kind of all, we're all weathering this pandemic together. And I've heard from a lot of people, hey, I'm having a hard time. What do I do? What can I do to maintain good mental space? Because, people get depressed, and this is tough. It's a sad situation. And there are people that are kind of holed up in homes sometimes with people they don't like very much, or situations that are tough. Mm-hmm. And this is the thing that I would say to everyone. Be real gentle with yourself right now. Don't create routine and lists for yourself if that's going to add to your stress. Create a list and a routine if it makes you feel better, but just know that you can walk away from that for a day or two or a week if you need to. you know, and also be gentle with yourself when it comes to, you are allowed to feel sad or upset or scared during this time. Those are human emotions. And if any time frame calls for that, now would be that time. I mean, this is a very uncertain world we're in right now. So the thing I would tell people is just remember who you are. And if you feel sad, remember that there are very simple things like going outside or taking a bath, or, you know, there's a lot of self-care type things you can do to handle those emotions. Reach out to a friend. Very simple things. Just hang in there is kind of my big takeaway. Just it's you know, I know a lot of people are struggling with hearing it's going to be okay, because it doesn't feel like that sometimes. But we will get through this. You just got to keep one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel really strongly about a lot of what you said. You know, honoring all your emotions, always honor and sit with it, no matter what it feels like. Greet them like they're old friends and talk to them, because they've got something to teach you too, about who you are.
Yes.
About how you react to situations and stress, because I know stressful situations aren't something that anybody looks forward to, but there's always lessons of self in them. It's very Morrigan centered to do that to us all, like time for a lesson. We're like, no lessons, not yet. No. Oh.
Yeah,
Especially if we know
we
what's
need to
coming.
get a reprieve. Like, we need to get a reprieve on the lessons. Like, I would like a little bit of a reprieve, because look, I'm lessoned out. The last 5 years of my life have been batshit, and I'm done with that. Like, I just, like, I'm good. Okay, I got you. I'm good.
Yeah, I
like,
feel that. I
you
just
know,
like a king this time. I'd like a king instead of, you know, whatever we've been given. Can we have something worth having, please?
Yes. You know, it's funny, because I think the other thing that I would tell people is know the value of a good cry. Know the value of just kind of giving into your sadness for a short time and crying it out if you need to. Like, you know, I know people sometimes are afraid to put their feet into those waters where you just need to be sad for a little bit. You just need to kind of honor the fact that it's upsetting, and you've been through some tough stuff, and you weren't respected the way you wanted, or loved the way you wanted, or you feel scared about money, or all of those things. I think sometimes having a good cry for 10 or 15 or 20 minutes, or however long it takes, there's a lot of value in that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I used to fight against that, because I grew up thinking that crying was so weak. You know, that was not allowed in my childhood. And it was just something that if you did that, it was kind of an admission that you were not, you know, you weren't strong enough for the world. But now I'm kind of like, no, I just need to cleanse. It's just a good way to cleanse real quick.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I had that too. The whole clean your face before someone sees you crying thing. Yeah. But also with that, if you need to be angry as well, if you need to scream and shout and howl and have a tantrum about it as well, then do that. Yeah, do whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anger and rage are also cleansing emotions. And I think people, you know, they forget that sometimes. It's easy to forget. You know, it doesn't feel cleansing to sit in anger, but I've found it to be very cleansing. It's very healing sometimes to acknowledge I am very angry about this, and, you know, this particular thing or person, I feel angry about X, Y, or Z. Sometimes even just saying that out loud and admitting what it is that bothers you is enough to like help you gain momentum and moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
So I think we're probably at a good space right about there. So thank you so much. This bit might be on Ember's channel, by the way. So if I'm like saying goodbye on Ember's channel, then you're welcome, I guess.
Yes, we're going to split it up. And thank you guys for watching. You know, we always enjoy talking about the Morrigan and the different, we're both Virgos, we're both Morrigan. We have a lot of parallels in our lives. So we appreciate you guys hanging in there as we catch up. We don't get to do this very often. So, and check out Joey's channel, you guys. She has got a lot of really amazing interviews with other witches that are meaty and wonderful. And please go check her channel out if you haven't. I don't know who hasn't. They'd have to be under a rock. Like, hello, amazing channel. Hello. But she's, I was telling her before we got on that we had a I watched her interview with Benabel Wynn, and it was one of the best things I've seen on YouTube in a long time. It was very meaty. So if you have not caught that particular one, please go look at it. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming and chatting with me. It has been a minute since we've done it, and it's always lovely to talk.
It's been a minute. We always seem to circle back when there has been a breakup of some kind. Either I'm going through it, you're going through it. We're like, hello.
I heard you had a Morrigan lesson again. How's that going for you?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
That's basically what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, we speak that language. We know what that's about.
Yeah. Cool.
Good deal. Well, we appreciate you guys for putting up with our banter and listening, and like and subscribe and leave a comment down below, and yeah, maybe we'll do this again soon.
Yeah, that would be lovely. So thank you so much to Ember, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.
All righty. Have a good one. Bye-bye.